And we are back once again. Welcome to the Winner Circle, the podcast covering jiu-jitsu, MMA, and all combat sports. My name is Eugene Plowden, and with me, as always, my podcast partner, Isaiah Gathings. What's up, man?
What's up, bro? How are you?
If I'm good, man. If this is your first time with us, I want you to know we are members of the Martial Arts Center Network. And on Mondays, you got the Winner Circle with myself and Isaiah Gathings. Tuesdays, the Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. Wednesdays, your traditional way with Brett Shumway. Thursdays, Fists, Kicks, and Flicks with myself and Joe Hartley. For more information, check us out on all of our social media platforms. Just look for the Martial Arts Center Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. And don't forget about the main app, the Martial Arts Center Network app. Zeke, it's showtime. What's up, man?
Not a lot, man. Just living a dream and happy to be back, man. I know we had a little bit of time off, but we got a lot to discuss and ready to get to it, man. Always an enjoyable experience, doing this podcast with you. Always looking forward to it.
That's right, man. Me too, man. So let's just jump right into it, man. So I sent the group a thing I saw earlier about the UFC having pay cuts, and now they are no longer going to subsidize teams in hotels. So such cost cutting has led to the camps having to finance things they previously never had to consider before. Some fighters are talking about what is this? Some fighters are talking about, I'm not gonna read that because I don't know nothing about that, but stuff like I read another article earlier where it was saying that the UFC was only going to pay for the fighter to fly to compete in their hotel, a coach, and maybe a plus one like a wife or someone like that. But other than that, the rest of the team, if you got other training partners, the UFC is no longer going to pay for them to come to an event. That's crazy. That is ridiculous. I don't understand. I really don't understand why they're holding money the way they're holding money now, because now they got a big deal with Paramount, and who knows whatever else they have going on now. I would think that money is coming into the UFC. And it seems like they're cutting back instead of doing more for these fighters. What do you think, man?
I tell you, man.
You know something too. I know you know something.
My timing when it comes to stuff could not be worse. It simply could not be worse. So you won't believe what I'm getting ready to tell you. You will not believe it. And I did not know that until you just told me. And it makes so much sense of something that just happened today.
And I literally just told you 10 seconds before I hit to start the stream.
Yes.
So
this is all fresh information to me, folks. This ain't something that I was aware of prior to just when we were getting ready to do this podcast. Let me tell you how bad my timing is. So obviously the dream is of any coach when you're working with MMA fighters or whatever the case is, you want to get to the big stage someday. That's the big thing. You want to make it to coaching the UFC. It's a great honor to be able to do that. Last week, I was, for those who don't know, I coach alongside Dewey Cooper. He's a really good friend of mine. He's Francis Ngannou's coach, and a ton of other respectable UFC fighters, past and present, champions, K1 fighters, just boxing. He's if you don't know Dewey Cooper, look him up. He's the man, past, present, and future. He's a good friend of mine. I coach alongside him. Last week, there's a new a Russian fighter that he just started training, a female fighter. And he says, I happened to go up to the gym. I hadn't been up there in quite some time because I just been dealing with life and hadn't had much reason to, because I train people privately outside of at the gym as well. I went up there, got some work in with my daughter. She wanted to get back to training. My son came up there, got some work in with him. And he says, man, out of sight, out of mind, I just totally forgot about you. I haven't seen you in a while. I need some help with this Russian fighter, female fighter, who has a fight coming up in the UFC in April. So it was 3 weeks from then. So they just brought me on to be her jiu-jitsu coach, her wrestling and jiu-jitsu coach. And I've been working with her for the past week, just left from sparring. She sprawled today. She's looking real good. It's getting close. But I'm supposed to corner her in the UFC. So this will be my first time cornering for, and a lot of other big promotions, but never UFC, on April 18th in Winnipeg, Canada. So I'm really excited about that. We're working really hard with her and getting her ready for that. But something was very interesting to me today. So after she sprawled, we were talking about the arrangements. I had to send over all this information because not only is it for the UFC, but it's also international because it's in Canada. Now, we're from Detroit, so we don't think Canada's international. We don't look at Canada as being a different country. That's just Canada, man. It's 20 minutes up the road. You go across the bridge, through the tunnel, you're there. We don't look at it that way, those of us who are from Detroit, because we frequented so close to us. We've been there so often. But no, it's a UFC fight. It's international. So I had to send over passport information, different photos, your licenses, all type of stuff. So, I send all that stuff over. So after the sparring today, we were talking, and he, coaches with him and the Russian fighter, a female fighter, her name's Daria. They were talking, and I was getting lost in the dialogue because it didn't make sense to me. He's like, oh, yeah, the UFC already got my ticket, so I'm already situated. And he's talking to her. He's like, so, you got this coach, you got somebody else. So I'm thinking, like, why is he talking to her? Like, she's the fighter. Why are we having this conversation with the fighter? The UFC pays for it. Why is it sounding like that the manager, right, her manager or the management has to purchase my ticket? That's ridiculous to me. This just happened an hour ago. They were sitting out having this conversation, and I was clueless. I didn't understand. And now this is making sense what you're saying. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, the UFC, if you're fighting in the UFC, you get up to 4 corners. So a corner is a person who stands in your corner, and they coach you while you're fighting and in between the fight. Typically, these 4 people consist of the following: you have your head coach. All right, if your head coach isn't a striking coach, you have a striking coach. You may have a jiu-jitsu coach, and you may have a wrestling coach. That's why they allow 4. Sometimes the head coach is one of those other coaches. Sometimes in like football, how a head coach can be the overseer of the offensive and the defensive coordinator and special team coordinator. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really call the plays, but he oversees all of those things. Sometimes the head coach position is just that. He allows the striker, the coach, the wrestling coach, jiu-jitsu coach, or whatever to do their thing. And then he looks and oversees all of that and formulates a game plan. He knows a little bit of all of them. It just depends. But they've always allowed 4. Out of those 4, they've always paid for the 4, right? When you're in UFC, they get you, because of the Reebok deal that is now gone several years ago, they started with you get your sweatsuit, you get T-shirt, and they give you shoes with the fighter's name on there that you're representing, and you go out and you wear that. I try to give all of my sizes, so that way my gear and merchandise can be waiting for me when I get there, right? So, I mean, all of this has been, that's how the UFC's been all of these years until Isaiah now is going to now start corner. So for the first time, this unprecedented thing is now transpiring. The first time. This is the first event coming up. It's unprecedented. The one that I'm on, that I'm a part of. Oh, wait a minute. Isaiah's coming? Oh, we're not paying for nothing anymore. No, cut it. Cut flights, cut food, vouchers, cut per diems. Stop it. This is ridiculous. Now, to your point, again, thank you for explaining that, because that makes the conversation make sense that they were having. Her English is broken, so I couldn't really understand what she was saying. But what it sounds to me like is he's the head coach, so the UFC has purchased his ticket already. He's done. So now, because I am being brought on as a wrestling coach, they're now management. Her manager is responsible for purchasing my ticket to fly me there, which isn't fair to her, because guess where that comes out of? It comes out of her purse. She has to fight. Why does she have to pay for me? So what this is going to cause is going to cause a level of vitriol moving forward about people having smaller corners now. That means they're going to be less prepared, all right, or have less a coaching influence, in the fights. That's going to probably at some point in time affect the quality of the fights, because some fighters don't get paid very well, right? Some people are cheap. Right, and some people, again, they're just not in that bracket where they can afford all of these extra expenditures coming out, because if you don't know, fighters typically train for free their entire camp, okay? They ain't paying nobody because they don't have it. Everybody is working on contingency, waiting until that fight happens and transpires, and at that point in time, the fighter then takes their cut, and they have to pay their manager, they have to pay their booking agent, they have to pay their head coach, they have to pay their striking coach, jiu-jitsu coach, wrestling coach, strength and conditioning coach. That's 7 people easily that they have to pay out of $20,000.
And Uncle Sam.
And Uncle Sam.
He's first. He should be first.
And don't get hurt, right?
Yeah.
Or don't let your opponent have canceled on you, and you only get the show money and you don't get your bonus money. So now she has to focus on fighting, and now that's going to affect the relationships between anybody that's not the head coach, because now you're auditioning for the fighter, because now she's looking at me like, not saying she is. I'm just saying, just let's use this, hypothetically. Is this guy worth me paying for a plane ticket for him, for a hotel for him, moving forward, for what? Like things that were already inherently taken care of. Now the fighter has to do the math in their head. Now, to your point, you're right. They did just sign that big old Paramount deal, and they should have an influx of money being able to come through. Let me tell you what I think that it is, though. I think that they're smart in the regard of this. Yeah, we got a lot of upfront money coming, but guess what we don't have? We don't have residuals coming anymore, right? And that's big, because back in the day, we had the residual income, not just from the gate and from the door and all that other stuff, but the pay-per-view, and we were able to sell points, give points to the pay-per-view to some of the premier headline fighters. So we got one big lump sum. Now, you're a martial art instructor. You've run specials before where you've had paid for 6 months up front, and it's going to be this much money. Paid for a year up front, and it'll be this much. You're like a kid at Christmas if you get a decent amount of people to pay at once, because that's a lot of money. You can get a lot of stuff done. I can get a lot of bills taken care of with the Dojang. I can get staff paid up. I can get new equipment. I can get all that. But guess what? By the end of that week or that month, that money's all gone. So now for 6 months or for 12 months, you have no income coming in from that student. So now this kid's mama ain't gonna let him miss a class now. They done got this at 50% off. This kid is at every class. She there early. You know what I mean? Like trying to participate in additional activities that they wasn't before. They're super enthralled now. And you got to be there and have the same energy level to work with this kid as you would have if you were getting residuals. I think that they're making cutbacks because of the fact that it was nice that we got a lump sum of money, but we're not getting money January, February, March, April, May off of pay-per-views anymore. We've capped out. So that cap is gone now. It's not like before we can say, well, we're going to move to this arena and we're going to sell 30,000 seats, and we're going to move to this one and sell 50,000 seats or whatever. That's fine for the door. We're going to move to this arena and sell this many seats and this many pay-per-views. We broke pay-per-view numbers this time. None of that matters anymore. Breaking pay-per-view numbers. There are no more pay-per-views. So that money that they're losing on residuals, I think that they're taking it off these pay-per-views. I think they're using it to be able to restructure the way that they're running the organization as a whole. And I think it sucks because that's going to cause discord between the fighter and the other coaches.
You know what also is messed up about that is what could have helped is if the UFC had allowed the fighters to continue to have their own sponsors, because then that's where that money could have come from to pay for their team. That's the money right there, from a water or a t-shirt company or whatever, like they were doing 20 years ago. Like they definitely need to bring that back if they're cutting the expense. I mean, if they're cutting something like that, cutting expenses and making, the fighter pay for the rest of their team to get out there. I mean, that's just crazy. Do you think it'll be a situation where camps might start either co-training together, either at the week of the fight or leading up to the fight? So like if you know that I have a fighter fighting and we're getting together, you have somebody fighting, me and another person helps you and your fighter. Do you think that might happen to cut down on cost, or I
don't. Sadly, what's going to happen is this, and I've already seen it. Excuse me. And it didn't make sense to me, and it's starting to now. I know I'm joking because you just gave us information today. I said it's starting on the April card. It could have started before now. It could have been going on, and maybe just these individuals just highlighted it in this article that you're now reading. What I have noticed is if you can bring 4 people and the UFC was able to pay for 4 people to come, then it seemed like you would have 4 people in your corner. And back in the day, those corners were full. I'm noticing empty spaces now when I'm looking, because I look at the corners as well when they come out. I'm finding empty spaces in these corners now. I'm seeing 3 people over there, 2 people. And I'm thinking, like, if this is a fighter and this person, like, this is a person's big chance and opportunity. I know they've had people that they were able to work with. And I know sometimes there's scheduling conflicts. You know, Coach Dewey has a fighter that's fighting in May, and it's on the same day as that Netflix card, which we'll get into slightly later. And it's only one of him, and he had to choose. So there's certain times that these things there will be scheduling conflicts and issues, and I get that, right? But overall, when I'm looking, I'm saying 3 people, 2 people in corners, and this is the UFC. I'm like, something's up. So what I do think happen, I don't think what you're saying is going to happen. What I think is just going to happen is these fighters are not going to. They're like, I'm already stretched too thin, right? You're not giving the fighters a significant enough raise to be able to accommodate for the change that you're making, right? So think about it like this: gas is up here, you know, in Vegas. Gas is over $5 a gallon now. It's over $5. It's $5.09. It's even worse in California. Mm-hmm. So if you have a driving job, if you drive rideshare, Uber, Lyft, if you drive a taxi, if you do any of these type of things, you know, the fares aren't going up, right? But where it might have took you $25 to be able to get your tank somewhere before, excuse me, it's taking $50 now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, but this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm not getting paid any more money. I'm having to spend more money to be able to do the exact same job. These fighters are not getting paid any more money while they're making these adjustments. They're not saying we're increasing every fighter's purse by $1,500 a fight. Mm-hmm. And then you can use that money if you choose to be able to. They're not doing that, right? And what they have done though is they have increased the bonuses. So the bonuses have went from somewhere like it was $50,000 before, it jumped up to $70,000. I think if I'm not mistaken, the bonuses are at $100,000 now. Now, you know, that's great, that's exciting. But here's what people aren't paying attention to. Dana is subliminally telling people this. If you don't go out and you don't try to, you're not willing to die for this, like literally like kill somebody, short of kill them in the cage or whatever else to get this bonus, then you're going to get the bare minimum. I'm going to give you this amount of money. I'm going to put additional financial responsibility on you in the process. I'm not going to pay you anymore. And, you can get paid more. Just win knockout of the night. Just win submission of the night. Just win fight of the night. The hardest thing that there is to do. It's hard enough to win at the highest level.
Right.
Now, you're starving me. You're putting additional responsibility on me. And then you're telling me that the only way I'm going to be able to be compensated fairly is if I go out and I kill this person. Oh, sure. And then again, it's not up to me whether I get it or not because it could be a couple of knockouts. So this is a totally subjective thing. This is whatever King Dana likes. I think that was the best knockout. It's not even a fan poll where it's like everybody votes and it comes in. It's just whichever one the people in the back think is the best. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think that you're going to see a influx of smaller corners, where there's not 4 people in the corner. There may just be 2 people, the head coach who's being paid for, and one other person. And that's going to result in you're supposed to already be prepared before showing up to the fight, right? You're supposed to already know what to do. But when those lights hit and that pressure hits and you're in those bad positions, having the right coaches in your corner from a coaching perspective helps, but just from a comfort perspective helps. To see them, to hear their voice in between rounds. It's something that you've heard for the past 3 or 4 months of camp. Those things psychologically make a difference to a fighter, and it can make the difference in a fight. And if you're seeing smaller corners, you're going to probably start seeing even more lackluster fights, even more untechnical fights, and even more fights that you're not interested in because they don't have the adequate coaching, corner, and team that they need to help them prepare for that night and then during that night. And that's important to understand too. They get you down there a few days early because that coaching staff still needs to help you with your finishing touches for a fight night, including weight cutting, which means also you might start seeing even more people miss weight. All of those things are attributed to having a coach. And the reason that those coaches are there is because the organization has historically paid for them to be there. And that's something that the fighter hasn't had to worry about. Now that it's coming out of the fighter's purses, I think it's going to be an issue moving forward.
You watch wrestling?
Occasionally.
I'm talking about pro wrestling, WWE.
Yeah, I watch occasionally. I enjoy it. Just whenever I catch it.
I haven't really watched wrestling, pro wrestling, and I mean, I keep up with it on social media, but as far as watching the television shows, I haven't watched wrestling in the last 5 years. You know, and I grew up watching wrestling, but you know, now, you know, just too busy, and I don't have the time to dedicate myself to just sitting there watching all of the matches every single week, all the different shows, right? At one point in time, though, WWE pretty much got rid of all of their competition. You know, when they bought WCW and ECW was gone, they could do whatever they want. And that was around the time when John Cena popped up and John Cena was doing his thing. And my whole thing was always, if there had been another wrestling organization, I don't think they would have stuck with John Cena as long as they stuck with him, because they got to a point where people did not like John Cena, right? And I think if the WWE had competition, people would have switched and watched this other show, because people were being forced to watch and like John Cena. Now, I bring that up because I'm wondering if Dana and the UFC are about to create, or not purposely, but create some type of competition for themselves and have another organization come up. Like, we're going to talk about MVP because, you know, who is it? Jake Paul, is that his organization or is it Logan? I think it's Jake. Jake Paul has a fight card coming up. He's not on it. You know, it's Ronda versus Gina is the main event. But I'm starting to think that we might start getting more people or more organizations either putting together MMA cards, either like that, or maybe use the boxing formula where there's no, you know, organization like the UFC. It's just like a ranking system. Let's just say MVP is not a organization like the UFC. It's just a ranking system. We have our champions, and we just bring in whoever is unsigned to the UFC to put on the best card possible for this particular month. We might have a situation like that, or another organization like Bellator might show up or whatever. But if the UFC keeps doing things like this and fighters are not happy, especially if they're not making money, they're going to make someone come along and create an organization and give the fighters and the customers what they want, something that the UFC is not doing. Do you foresee that happening?
In any relationship where there is a person that is a very dominant figure, as long as they can keep any other suitors away, they can then treat those individuals any kind of way that they want, because they have nothing to compare it to. Mm-hmm. We've all known somebody that's in an actual relationship, you know, with another woman, or a woman with a man, or whatever. And it's like, man, like, this person isn't the best person for this person. You know, they're not really great, you know, and it's like they treat this person very poorly. And it's okay, because I'm going to just make sure there's no other men around, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't have to go out of my way to give her very much, because of the fact that whatever it is that I give her, she's going to accept, because I'm going to just make sure that I weed out any possibility for there to be anybody else around. So when somebody else comes around, they can just come around with a smile, with a high, with a high five. Mm-hmm. Here's some gummy bears, you know, here's some Skittles. And she's like, oh my God, this guy's great. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't get this, right? You know, this is not something I'm used to, getting gifts, getting affection, getting smiles. Anything is easier to win a person over when they are in a relationship that's classically being bad on purpose, because there's no competition. Our job is to make sure there's no other suitors, no other men, or other women around to compare it to. This has classically been the issue with Dana White. You know, we know this back when he bought Pride, and he promised those Japanese people, I'm not going to shut this thing down, just so you know, because people loved it. They loved the pageantry. They had elevators coming up from underground with fighters on there, and they had all these Japanese women dancing. The guys are coming down there dancing, fireworks shooting out. Before they came down the runway, they had the big TV where they would have behind them, they would have the whole little story. And he's standing in a forest with a samurai sword, cutting down palm trees, getting ready for the fight. And it was so electric of an environment. The female that they had, that was the announcer, she was better than Bruce Buffer by 1,000 times over. You know what I mean? Like, she was all into it. If you ask him, he'll probably tell you he stole some stuff from her, quite honestly. You know what I mean? She was fantastic. And just to not watch it, you were just doing yourself a disservice, because it was clearly a better brand. He bought it, the next day shut it down after he told him he wasn't going to do it. Shut this thing down. Smashed it. It's now defunct, right? Now, again, now that I have your attention, come on back to me. We're going to watch UFC. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the lights off, and then we'll cut the lights on, and the guy gonna walk to the cage, and that's it. We ain't spending no money on no pyrotechnics. We ain't spending no money on no elevators or no pageantry. We ain't doing no videos. Listen, forget what you saw. That's there. I bought it. I killed it. It's done. Go back and you want to watch MMA, this is what you're going to watch. I'm going to give you a bologna sandwich of a product, some slapped together. I got the money to do it. I'm just not going to spend it. You're going to watch what is that I give you because I'm not going to sit there and overinvest, right? So to your question, to answer your question, it's really easy for somebody to come in, and he's making it easy. I don't have to come in and say, I got to pay you more than you get in the UFC because they don't get paid very much. I think the base salary is $20,000 right now. That's $20,000 a show. And if you win, you get a $20,000 bonus. So you'd have to win to get $40,000. I just told you have to pay 5 to 7 people out of that's been waiting for 3 months to get their money, right? And then you may not fight again. If you're lucky, you'll fight again that year. It might not be for 6 months, right? You know, if
you get hurt, like you said, if you get hurt.
If somebody get hurt, then you might jump in sooner than that. But if you get hurt, you're not fighting no more that year. So that $40,000 got to pay all 5 coaches, plus you got to pay for your mortgage, your car note, because you don't have a job. This is your job. You got to pay for your mortgage. You got to pay for your car note. It's got to take care of your kids. It's got to make sure your wife is okay. It's got to put savings aside, right? So again, this is very little bit of money, right? So now we're talking about the fact that a person could come in easily and say, I could pay you more than you get in the UFC. Back in the day, you say, yeah, but it's the UFC though. You know, the window of it, you know, of where I could go, the ceiling is a lot higher than any other organization. So I'll take less if I feel like that I can be at this in this organization that has a higher ceiling. Now I don't even have to say that. I can say, listen, man, you know, I can not only pay you more than you're paying the UFC, I'll take care of all your corners, man. You know what I mean? Like, you make it so easy, it's too easy now. Now I can just say I'm going to take care of all 4 of your corners, get them hotel rooms, get them flights, things that the UFC used to do. But the cockiness starts to come from the fact that, as you articulated, when you are a monopoly and you have no real legitimate, suitable competitors, you start to ask yourself, these fat, you know, cats in these offices, you know, with their beach houses and their Bentleys and their PJs, their private jets, stuff like that. They're like, look, like, we got a lot of money, but we can have more money. Like, why are we paying for 4 people? Like, they don't even really need 1 coach. Some of these people aren't even fighters, never been a fighter. They don't understand the ramifications behind taking away coaches and how much that can affect not only the fighter, but overall the card. So I think that you're going to see a lot more competitors because at this point, the bar is so low to where I don't have to go in and say, I'm going to offer you more money than you're getting. I can just go in and say, listen, don't even worry about it. I'm going to not only offer you more money, but I can take care of all of your coaches, their flights, round trip tickets, their hotel rooms, just little things. Now, most people can afford that, right? But the fighter, the biggest thing for the fighter is the fighter does not want any additional added responsibility or pressure. If you've ever talked to a fighter before, they'll tell you how aggravated they get when it's showtime and everybody all of a sudden wants tickets. Now, they've been trying to sell tickets way before this, but now they're trying to put these tickets aside. They're trying to run down or send somebody down to get tickets out to mama, grandma, uncle. People want to buy it last minute. You're like, I asked you 3 months ago. I told you I was fighting. But now I got to be the holder of the ticket, distributor. Stuff that small can throw a fighter off their square.
Yeah, because they trying to focus.
Imagine now them having to pay for airfare tickets, you know, for 3 or 4 of the coaches that's getting lost, that's flying out on different days. They have to pay for hotel rooms. They have to pay for per diems. I think that we're going to see a lot more competitors because it's not going to take much to be able to sway people.
You think it might get back to how it was like around 2006 or 7, back when you had the IFL, you had Strike Force, you had Elite XC, you had Bodog Fight, you had all of these little organizations all over the place. I mean, I loved it as a fan, just being able to watch different organizations. Especially, I loved how different IFL was as far as a team fighting type of thing, you know. So I'm for it if that's what happens. It's what happens. But do you think if an organization comes along, let's like this organization here, it's a good segue. Like this organization, MVP, Jake Paul's organization. What if he never has any titles? What if he just says, you know what, I'm going to put on 4 banger shows every single year of just the best available fighters that I can find who are not signed to the UFC, but I'm gonna pay them better than they would if they were with the UFC. You think that would be a successful formula for them to have?
I think UFC needs to be concerned, and I don't think this is the time to be making these drastic decisions that they're making. If you're looking at this card right now, you recognize at least the people on the top shelf easily, and probably some people maybe even on the second one as well. If not everybody on there, depending upon what your fandom or involvement is in excuse me, in MMA or mixed martial arts. These guys, they have the money, they have the vision, they have the support, and now they have the platform. Netflix is a bigger platform. Netflix is a bigger platform than Paramount, in my opinion.
You might be right.
And they are now doing historical things and putting on the first ever Netflix MMA event. You're going to watch it because if you didn't know nobody on here but one person, it's historical. Everybody has had Netflix or been stealing somebody's Netflix for 20 some odd years, right? And now you're starting to see sports on there, something you've never seen. And it's the first in your lifetime. You're not going to want to watch it, even if you're not interested. It's like, what's the first? It's history, right? And they're doing a lot of this type of stuff now. So it's so much attached to it other than just the boxing or the MMA. When I was talking to Coach Dewey today, he's coaching Francis, the top right corner. He's the dark guy, a black guy in the top right corner. And he's coaching him. He was in the UFC. He ended up leaving, pursuing boxing at the highest level, fought some big name boxers, Tyson Fury being one of them. Then PFL picked him up. PFL ended up recently releasing him. And now he's with MVP. And this is nothing to sneeze at. Like, this is a big deal. And I think that the UFC should be concerned because I think this is going to get legs under it and it's going to get momentum. They're releasing people that they're tired of because they feel like they're not producers. But that doesn't take any value away from their name. And they're taking that notoriety and name that the UFC helped to contribute to build. Obviously, they're the fighter. They built it themselves because they were the ones fighting and realizing success. But the UFC did push them, after they started realizing success. So the product in which they built, they discarded. And somebody's like, well, this isn't even garbage. It's discarded, but it's not trash. This still has value, intrinsic value that I can then take over to another platform that is much more notable, that people are familiar with, that has that level of notoriety involved. And yeah, people are going to tune in and watch. I just need a good supporting cast. And MVP was able to do that. If you look at this, we started hearing about Ronda Rousey first. People started saying, oh, she's back. And then some people knew Gina Carano. If you were an old school martial art head, you would have known who she was. If not, maybe you learned a little bit later, right? But you heard Ronda. Then they got Gina. So they said, we need supporting cast because both women are a little bit older, right? And then on top of it, some people just have an issue watching women headline the fight. So what can we do? We're going to throw Francis on there. All right, well, Francis is a great fighter. Maybe some people know who he is. People know who Nate Diaz is, though. He's a character. He's going to sell fights accidentally. He don't be trying to sell the fights. He's for real. Y'all watching it, y'all laughing. I want to see his fight. This is just how he is. He's just being serious. He's not telling the joke. He's going to accidentally sell tickets, right? And then you start actually compiling a card together, and now you have people looking much more forward to something like this than they do any UFC fight in recent memory. You know what I mean? So with that said, I think that the UFC needs to worry because I think this is only going to grow. When you have people like Logan that's in the WWE, he's now looking at, and Ronda, who was in the WWE, they're looking at the mastermind that was Vince McMahon and how he built this brand and how it's sustained. So they know how to market and sell fights. And Dana's been trying to do that for some years now. That's why he was bringing in CM Punk and those other guys. He wanted to try to learn that formula of what the WWE was doing. That's why he brought Brock Lesnar in. He wanted to get that formula and understand it and apply it to something real. And he was close, but then he just couldn't crack that code. I think with Logan Paul being behind it, with him being in WWE and with Ronda spiting the UFC because of how they treated and scorned her and turned their back on her and stuff like that, I think they're going to take that winning recipe of the WWE, the professional wrestling. They're going to add that in to the actual MMA, and they're going to find different little nuggets and ways to continue to make their stuff distinctive, but still yet appealing and appeasing to actual hardcore MMA fans as well as enthusiasts as well. I think this is going to be a problem. I really do. Especially given these changes that the UFC are making. Because I guarantee you this, they're not going to have a stipulation like that. You know, you need to, you know, only have so many coaches.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
They're paying money because I'm not supposed to know, but I have an idea about how much Francis and some of these other guys are getting, and they're getting paid some money. They're getting paid. So,
so back to my question: do you think that a card like this has no titles, zero? Do you? But these fighters are getting paid. Do you think that is going to be more attractive to certain fighters, even if you're coming up? You know, what do you want? Do you want the titles? Do you want to be able to say you're in the UFC, or do you, if you're getting, you know, a couple $1 million a year, you know, what do you prefer?
I think everybody wants to be a champion of something. I think that as a starting out model, that might be okay and acceptable, but I can't see any sustainability when you're not separating people from the other group. A champion is what separates you from the rest of the pack. That's number one. And then with that said, number two, it doesn't just separate you as far as notoriety, it separates you financially as well, right? Because now I can justify why I'm asking to be paid a significant amount more than everybody else because I'm a champion, so I'm not like them. The third thing it does is it continues to keep the fighters themselves goal-oriented. They're chasing for something now. If they're just fighting, some people are actually well off. Everybody ain't broke. Everybody don't need money. Some people are financially responsible and they're not cavalier with their finances. So with that said, some people have money from the previous organization they were fighting in. They don't really need it. So if I'm doing okay financially and I'm well off, and you want to offer me a couple $1 million, that's nice. But maybe I invest in crypto. Maybe I have a school that's thriving or a couple gyms, and those are making a few $1 million. And really, I just want to be a champion because I was never able to be a champion in the UFC. And now, because of the fact that there was politics involved, he had his favorites, he didn't like me. But now I'm going to a place with a clean slate, a place that is an inaugural organization, the first ever on Netflix. I want to be the first ever MVP MMA champion, right? I don't think you can get away with not having championships and just throwing money at people, assuming that money will motivate them to want to continue to participate, to give their best effort, and to be great. A lot of those people that you're looking at their faces, they are well off and they have money, so that won't be the deciding factor, just the money itself. They're going to want to be pushing for something greater.
So let me ask you this then. Let's say if I'm a fighter and I'm just getting started in my MMA career, it'll be cool to start off. So you're saying that person would be cool to start off on a card like this, but at some point in time, this person is going to go to the UFC. Let's say they go to the UFC, they make it to the UFC, and obviously, you know, they might not be getting this, you know, paid as well as they were in this organization. Let's say this person makes it and they win a couple of fights. Let's say they win a title, and then they say they drop the title, you know, after a year or two. Do you go back to this organization or do you stay in the UFC?
I want you to look closely at this card. And I know you follow MMA, but you don't follow it maybe, you know, as closely as I do with some other ones. And this is something very interesting that I picked up on kind of initially, but more so when you were talking and you were asking a question. Look at this card and look closely. And think about what I'm getting ready to say. If given the opportunity right now, let's look at the first row and the second row, because those will be the ones where you probably recognize the most people.
Yeah.
Do you think that any one of those people want to go back to the UFC? These are people, wait, hold on. These are people who were definitely not treated well by the UFC.
Right. That's
right. So with that said, to your point, I don't think that these people want to go to the UFC and fight for a title. I think they want to spurn the UFC and say, F you, we about to do this over here, and we're going to be a bigger name than you, and we're going to help MVP make this happen. So whatever we got to do to contribute to this, let's go in order here. Excuse me, because I have a bit of a cold I'm fighting. Nate Diaz and Mike Perry, right? These were people that had some exciting fights in the UFC, but make no mistake about it. Diaz had no problem letting you know how he felt about the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
One of my funniest moments that I remember, man, and I laughed so hard about this. I remember he was doing an interview, and they were asking him, and certain things, tickle my fancy and my funny bone a little bit different than other individuals. So some things I find hilarious that other people may not. They asked him a question about the UFC. He had just won a fight too. And they asked him about, was he going to continue? When was his next fight? Do you want to fight for a championship? And he said something like, look, man, he said, I'll be honest with you, I've been trying to get out of this thing for a very long time now. And I just bust out laughing. Like, he called it a thing. Like, there are people dying to get in the UFC. Mm-hmm. He's taking his air wraps off after the fight. Like, I've been trying to get out of this thing for the longest. Like, somehow I keep winning, and you guys keep offering me fights and money. So this is a guy that had no problem sharing his thoughts, was not a fan of Dana or anyone in the UFC. Mike Perry.
Hold on, before you continue, because I like where you're going with this. But has any UFC former champion once they're done with the UFC, do they have good things to say? Who are still in favor of the UFC? Randy Couture doesn't have a good relationship with the UFC. Rampage didn't have a good relationship with them. Tito doesn't have a good relationship with them. I don't know about Anderson Silva and GSP, their relationship, but I'm thinking about the champions that I remember. They don't have good relationships.
If you're going to just use the word the champions, then that's fine. Maybe you're right.
I'm looking at Ronda's a former champion. Francis is a former champion. Junior Dos Santos is a former champion. We got some former champions on this card,
Yep.
So.
But
why would you have champions? The people that that helped your company. Why would you would think that you would take care of your champions, make them happy, whatever, in some form of fashion.
Well, but we're kind of having two separate conversations here, because now you're focusing it on champions. Yes, 3 out of those people that you named were champions in the UFC. But to your point, there's a lot of people that fell short and got kicked out of the UFC that are trying to make their way back through feeder organizations. And their dream is to get back to the UFC someday to fight again and to realize what it feels like to be a champion. Lorenzo Larkin, he's never been a champion before, if memory serves me correct. Mokaev, he got kicked out just because of the fact that his fights were boring. He was undefeated, and they cut him because he likes to wrestle. They cut him. And then he went on social media saying some stuff. Then they went down, doubled down, and tried to ruin his relationship where he couldn't fight for nobody. So when nobody hired him or any organization. So they tried to ruin him. They made him beg to come back. And when he tried to beg to come back, they told him no, because he wrestled. He was undefeated. I don't think that, Diaz was a champion before, I believe. So, yeah. So
I know he had a BMF title. I couldn't remember if he did win a lightweight title. I know he won the Ultimate Fighter, but I can't remember if he won the lightweight title or not. I know
there's people that's fought in the UFC that are no longer in it that have a dream of someday being back there. So that isn't everybody's experience. When you bring it to champions, yes, many, if not all, the champions have negative things to say, and probably for a few reasons. One, being a champion, I'm sure you have to sign some paperwork and disclaimers. You can't air out dirty laundry, maybe even NDAs, and say certain things about an opinion of the organization in which you are carrying the banner and the championship for. That will hurt the brand. So obviously you'll hear these things once they're gone. Also, they're going to have the closest working relationship with Dana and the rest of the people there. So they're going to see a lot more than anybody else will see at any other level, because they are the champion. They're going to be targeted more. Means they're going to be offered fights that they don't want to take because of the fact that that Dana and the rest of them are just trying to put on an exciting card, but not keeping their best interest at heart. Excuse me. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to see and hear from them, because they're going to have a very different experience. Those are 2 different UFCs. John Jones' UFC experience, and somebody else that's fighting on a preliminary card, UFC experience. Those 2 different UFCs. I stay in Vegas. When y'all come down here to Vegas and y'all don't call me, because that's what y'all do. I tell y'all, call me all the time. Y'all never call me. So I can go. I want to go to Vegas too. I want to be on social media, hey, high five and dancing and stuff like that. I don't get that. Your Vegas and my Vegas is different. I live in the neighborhood. I have rent. I have bills. I have things like that. I don't go down to the strip, right? This is my Vegas, right? Y'all Vegas is y'all come down here, y'all hitting the club, it's bottle service, everybody having a good time, sprinklers going out, y'all in front of Bellagio fountains and stuff like that. Everybody having a good time. That ain't me. So to your point, that's why you're probably hearing these complaints from the champions more so, right? These people, this cast of people, they don't want to go back to the UFC. They want to be champions in a different organization that puts pressure or usurps the UFC to teach it a lesson. They were scorned, right? Mike Perry wasn't treated well by the UFC. Ronda Rousey classically complained about how Dana and the UFC treated her. Gina Carano has been out of the game for a very long time, you know, and didn't have a welcome comeback. People talk crap, make fun of her. Francis Ngannou, he was just trying to get his bag. He wanted to box and do UFC stuff. Dana like, nah, you my property. You ain't gonna do A, B, C, and D or whatever else. Dos Santos, I don't really know about his situation. The Mocha Lab, I told you they cut him just because he's great. He was undefeated and just winning his way. Couldn't nobody stop him. You know, Lorenzo Larkin was a great fighter, big fan of him. Not really sure what happened there. These people don't want to go back. So to answer your question, they want to be champions there, right? They don't want to fight, get a couple wins, go to UFC, be wooed, go there, win, lose the title, whatever, and then go back. They want to grow. They're there because they want to grow this brand. I can almost guarantee you that. And they want the UFC to want them so they can tell them, no, we good where we are.
Do you think John Jones shows up? Not on this card, but in a future card. Do you think John Jones shows up? He'll probably something like that. John Jones showing up. He's going to get a lot of money. And do you think that Jake Paul fights John Jones if John Jones show up? You almost have to make that fight.
There's a fight that I know that's in the works that I cannot talk about, and I won't say any more than that. I cannot bring it up. But when you guys hear it, you're going to be surprised. It is not John Jones, though.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I do see John Jones showing up sooner rather than later, especially after he was just spurned from that White House UFC card. So it might be before this year is out. UFC digging their own grave. And everybody else, I saw you on social media, John. Hi, I'm Jake Paul. Hi, I'm Logan Paul. Let me talk to you over here for a second. What did you say? $100 million? Sure, because we also have boxing money too, which far supersedes MMA money. So we can give you whatever figures we want because the revenue that we're generating from the boxing side of this is just stupid in comparison to MMA. Like 10 to 1.
They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out.
Oh, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. I'll tell you what, I'll put a couple more YouTube videos up or whatever, and we'll have your pay in no time, sir. You know what I mean? So no. You might see him as soon as this year, to be honest with you, after that White House fiasco, because he's not happy about that. But John Jones definitely shows up here for sure.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to talk about, man. Like I was telling you for our quick little pre-show that I didn't realize how tall Gina Carano was. I thought she was going to be shorter than Ronda Rousey, and I saw them do the face-off, and she was actually taller. And I'm thinking, like, does she have heels or something on? And she did have heels, but I went on Google and I looked up her and Rousey's height. Gina is 5'8", and Ronda Rousey is 5'7". So Gina Carano is a little bit taller than Ronda Rousey. So that made me start thinking about the fight because I thought that it would have been, would have been a little bit easier for Ronda to win the fight because I thought that she would have the range and the distance. But now I don't know. And I've been listening to other podcasts, and a lot of people are talking about, they were saying that if the fight stays on the feet, they're giving it to Gina. And Ronda needs to get it down on the ground. If Ronda can get it to the ground, then they're thinking that Ronda takes it on the ground. I think it's going to be whoever has the best conditioning. That's who's going to win this fight. Because once again, like both of these two, they haven't fought in so long. Ronda hasn't been in the MMA cage in 10 years. And Gina Carano, I think when we looked it up, was like 17 years or something like that. Whoever has the best conditioning, I think is the person that's going to win. Do you think this fight goes all 5 rounds?
To address your concern, and we talked about this, I think, briefly before, it is important, despite the fact you talk about the fact they haven't been fighting in so long. I do want you to remember what their professions are, right? So Gina, first of all, if you're not familiar with Gina Carano, she was a Muay Thai champion, a beautiful woman. I remember being kind of lean and kind of tall for for her weight division. So I remember being tall. I didn't see the face-off you're talking about, but I assumed that she would be a taller fighter because I remember her being a taller fighter, which made her frame great for Muay Thai kickboxing, which she was fantastic at. So yeah, that's that. And then Ronda, obviously, being a judoka. We'll talk about what my predictions is about these things in a second. But back to the point about the conditioning. Ronda's in the WWE. Very, very,
now AEW now.
Oh, she's AEW now?
Oh yeah, she had a bad falling out with WWE, so she's not in on good terms with them. Plus, WWE and UFC are the same company now, TKO. So
that's true. So she's with AEW. Professional wrestling is very physically demanding, and you have to have a tremendous conditioning to be able to do it. And she's done it for quite some time. People don't realize how long Ronda's been doing professional wrestling. It's been a very long time now, right? So that's a continued, sustained level of conditioning. And it is a sort of a fight because you're having your body hit, you're being thrown, you're acting, but you still are physically fighting. The fight just isn't, it's just a scripted fight, but it still is a form of a fight. So she's been doing that. I'm not really keeping up with Gina with her training, but I will tell you that people train Muay Thai, they do it for a pastime when they're done fighting quite often. It's something that they stick with for a very long time, naturally. So I know people that were fighters. I'll see people pop up in the gym that I haven't seen in a very long time because they haven't been fighting. I'll say, you got something coming up? No, just trying to stay in shape. And they'll come and they'll practice that the same way a martial artist has no problem going to a dojo or dojang and just going over forms, even as they get older, right? There's something that's in them, that repetition, that commitment, that dedication that they got. You see this a lot in Muay Thai. So I can guarantee you she's still been getting some bag work in. But whether she has or she hasn't, she's an actress, an active actress in movies like Marvel movies and things like that, where there's superhero movies that demand a certain level of having a certain level of physique. So I'm sure that being a former fighter, fight conditioning is a part of her training, whether it be for the purpose of the role or because it's something that's familiar to her and enjoyable to her, and she can correlate with that more when she's training and preparing to be able to get the physique that she wants. So they're going to come in shape as far as aesthetically. I don't think you're going to see sagging or, flabbiness too much. They are getting a little bit older, so maybe a little bit here and there. But I think that the conditioning standpoint, fight conditioning is different. Ring rust is different, but I'm not really sure that's going to play a heavy factor. Okay. The height difference plays to Gina very well because she's a striker. Classically, she hasn't shown us anything on the ground to give us any hope or indication that she'll be functional down there. I know people say it's been 17 years and she's been training jiu-jitsu every day. Let me tell you something I know about strikers. Regardless of how freaking much grappling, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu you teach them, it's something about getting that knockout. It's something about standing and banging and striking. And it's something about learning and getting and absorbing that knowledge on the ground. They can go through the motions, but it just doesn't correlate when it comes fight time. It doesn't. She can know everything to do, but they just don't do it. They don't do it. I don't know why. They know what to do, but they don't. If it stays on the feet, she can use that little small distance, height advantage if she has, reach and length advantage. Keep her on the outside, she'll be fine.
And she looked thick when they did that little face off. She did look thick, and I'm like, man, I don't know if Ronda wants to stand toe to toe with her, especially after getting hit by Holly Holm and getting laid out. Gina looked a little bit bigger than Holly Holm, so I don't think she want to take that.
Ronda being shorter for her style, this is perfect. It's an advantage. Being a judoka, if you don't know what that is a person that does judo, a judo practitioner. Being a judoka is all about hip placement when you go for takedowns and throws. It's easier to load the hips when you're the shorter fighter than it is if you're the taller fighter. So her being shorter, she can get entries a little bit easier. She can load her on her hips easier, which is going to help facilitate a better throw, an easier throw. That's if she actually uses her grappling and her jiu-jitsu and her judo. If it hits the ground, I see this being an easy fight for Ronda to win. So if it stays on the feet too long, I feel it's going to be an easy win for Gina. If it's the ground,
you agree with everybody?
I believe it's going to be an easy win for Ronda. Now, how will the fight go? Here's the problem that I'm having. I don't think that Ronda has learned her lesson. I think that she is too cocky and egotistical, and she still feels like she's going to have something to prove. And it's very easy for strikers to play to a striker, to a grappler's ego. You're not going to stand in front of me and bang. All you're going to try to do is hold me down, hug me the whole time. That ain't fighting, right? So that automatically takes you out of your realm of specialty and expertise. I believe that she's going to be talked into striking by people in her corner. Mike Tyson told you how great you are. You got great hands. You can stand with her. She ain't nothing. Or talked out of her game plan by her opponent and by social media. But I don't believe she's going to go in and wrestle and grapple like she could and take the clear, easy path. I think she's going to go in there and do some dumb stuff like she did before and try to stand in front of Gina. She's chinny now because she got popped a couple times. So it's going to be real easy for her to get knocked out this time. And I think that I don't know if it's going to be a stoppage or what. I'm sorry, a clean knockout. But I believe if she stands too long, Gina's going to win, and it's not going to go 5 rounds. And I believe if Ronda gets her down early enough in any round, that means where there's at least 3 minutes and 30 seconds left out of a 5-minute round, and she gets her down clean, I think that she'll finish it down there. I don't think she'll get outside of the round, which means that I don't see it going 5 rounds.
Okay. There's a little piece of me, man. I really don't know how I feel about Logan and Jake Paul and their fights and their cards. I always feel like there could be a little funny stuff in the game. So I definitely could see, their camp wanting this to go 5 rounds, if you know what I mean. Like, talking to each corner, like, don't get rid of each other in the first round, second round. Let's make this a fight. Let's make this something, because if this is a success and somebody wins by the skin of their teeth, there's going to be a second fight, and
yeah and no, because Americans are bloodthirsty. We want to see finishes. We don't always look at a 5-5 fight, a 5-round fight as being a good fight. I know I don't.
No, you're right. But when you're talking about people, when you start talking about dream matches and dream fights, you don't want to see that over in the first 45 seconds.
No, you're right. You're right. But here's the flip side to it. I don't want to see a boring fight that ended by split decision. I don't want to see a part 2 or part 3. You're talking about sequels and trilogies, and that's where the real money's at. That's only if these people go out and go after it.
Right.
If we're throwing occasional jab here and there, I won round 1 and 3, you won round 2 and 4. Round 5 could have went either way, and they're like, this person should have won, but nobody's thinking there's a clear robbery because of the fact that it was a lackluster fight to begin with.
It got to be a banger. It's got to be
a banger.
Yeah.
For it to go 5 rounds, somebody want to see it again.
Yeah.
Other than that, because I'll tell you what, and I'll be honest with you. So I partially agree with you, but I partially disagree. Sometimes those early fights, the ones that get in early, those get rematches and people tune in even more. And I'll tell you why. Because then the person can justify by using an excuse. You want to know what they say? I got caught cold. I got caught cold. I came out. I had warmed into a check. I got caught, 30 seconds in. I wasn't warmed up. I wasn't ready. Or I got injured in the back. Or I didn't have the best camp. So now this time I had a full camp. I'll be ready. I won't get caught cold. So now people are like, okay, well, I knew it seemed strange that you got knocked out in 45 seconds. I thought you was better than that, but I'm going to tune in now because you said you had an Achilles issue. You said that you hadn't warmed up yet, or you hadn't properly warmed up in the back, or this is a flash knockout, and the best of you has yet to come. If I watch you for 5 rounds, you can't tell me about no fight camp. You can't tell me you got caught cold or in between strikes or whatever. You can't tell me nothing because I saw you suck for 5 rounds. I don't want to see you suck for 5 rounds again. So they're kind of both. I see your point, but again, I don't think that a fight of this magnitude, they're paying people off in the back.
Yeah,
that's a Floyd Mayweather. That's a Jake Paul.
I wasn't gonna call out the names, but I was thinking. But
not Ronda and Gina. They're not paying nobody off for that. That don't make no sense.
Once again, like I said, if it's a banger, We might get it. But anyway, let's move on to the last part, man. We got you up next, Professor's Perspective. Let me turn it down a little bit because I think it was up a little high. But here we go.
A lot of you guys are sprawling. If I kick your leg 3 or 4 times, you're no longer thinking about striking anymore. You're like, man, he keeps kicking my leg. You know, what do I do about that? And then now that you're distracted, I'll open up on the hands. Some of you guys start switching your stance a lot because you don't know how to check the kick. So you keep switching your feet because you're afraid of keep getting kicked in that leg repeatedly. Make sure you attack your own weaknesses and deficiencies, guys, when you're out here. And that's why you come to Sprawl. That's why we have a good group of guys. Nobody's trying to hurt anybody. You can start to work on these things so you guys can feel more comfortable with it.
All right. So as you notice, I've been showing more range this year, right? Last year, you know, everything was just jiu-jitsu because Professor, black belt in jiu-jitsu, but black belt in other things as well. I'm blessed to have trained and achieved some level of success in many areas of martial arts. So I have lots of things to offer from a kickboxing perspective, jiu-jitsu, traditional martial arts. I'm blessed and fortunate. This was me talking to a class after we had finished sprawling, one of my MMA classes, and I'm talking about something that you see a lot of times in MMA and kickboxing, which talks about checking kicks. So if you don't know what that is, it's if you watch any type of kickbox, like Muay Thai kickboxing or MMA, you will see oftentimes someone's kicking the person's legs. And that's different than what you see in American kickboxing back in the day, all right, or sport karate. These things aren't allowed unless you're going for a sweep and things like that. A lot of fighters really honestly don't know what to do or how to check that kick. They're taught how to do it, but it isn't instinctive for them. And this is what I was talking about how this can be used as a distraction. And then also how if this is something that you're not great at, you need to attack your own weaknesses and deficiencies. And that goes for anything, not just leg kicking, not just kickboxing or MMA. Anytime you have a deficiency at all in any part of your martial arts game or any area, you need to attack that first. Don't think nobody else has noticed this, right? Oftentimes we think that we can hide it. Nobody's noticed the fact that I can't do this kick, that I'm not able to punch and kick off of if I punch on this side, I can only kick on this side, so I switch stances. I'm not able to be able to do this or that. Your classmates, your teammates, they've noticed it. They've seen it before. Your coaches, they notice it. So if you notice it, somebody else has. And I was having this conversation with somebody recently about something as silly as the cleanliness of a car. Like how, oh, you know what? There's no dust in here. You know, it's like, oh, wow, you noticed that? How many other people noticed that I had dust in my car that didn't say anything just because you did? Always understand that somebody notices something that you did. You noticed. A lot of these fighters struggle with leg kicks. And this is a bad thing because obviously common sense says we have to stand on our legs. Our legs are responsible for our movement. So whereas there's 1 or 2 kicks, and next time you watch an MMA, watch the fighter. Guy can kick once or twice. He tries to play it off. Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. You know, right? Push his hands up. That ain't nothing. I'm conditioned. You can throw more of them. But when you watch that 4th or that 5th one start to hit, you'll notice they're switching stances. They're moving different. They're not as mobile as they were before. This takes away the speed, the pop, the power from your punches because everything comes from the ground up. So the explosiveness from your punches doesn't come from your hands or from your arms. It comes from your ability to be able to actually lunge and move in and step in, you know, with your punches. Your defense, it comes from your ability to not just block, but also to be able to actually use your legs to get yourself out of striking position, you know, and things like that. So these things are important. So we're talking to these fighters about making sure that, number one, if you don't know how to check leg kicks, make sure that you address that with your classmates, with your teammates. Hey, throw that again while we're sprawling. Throw that again. I need to work on that, you know, and then work on it. Ask your coaches or whatever, because this is very important. All right, attacking your own deficiencies. All right, and understanding exactly what you're supposed to do. Me, I would use them as a distraction, and that's there's a longer part of that video where I talked about kind of I would throw a couple, and I even said it in that one. I throw a couple leg kicks, and before you know it, you're thinking like, man, he's kicked my leg like 3 times. Now the boxing comes, so now it's like I'm truly kind of confused, and I don't know what to do because just when I start focusing on the fact that my legs were being kicked. And I'm telling myself and processing, I need to check these kicks. Now the person's punching at me as well. So now I have to focus on this. Now they're going back downstairs to the legs. The way that we train our body and we understand offense and defense should be autopilot. When that kick's coming to the legs, it should handle itself. I should already be checking it, not thinking about it. hands still in position to be able to deal with whatever boxing situation that comes. But too often we either don't address and we ignore something that's happening, hoping that it stops, or we focus all of our energy in that particular area, which leaves us open and exposed to something else. So overall, I just wanted to make sure they understood that by repeatedly kicking that leg, it can be used as a distraction to be able to set up other things. So make sure that you address it when somebody's doing it the first time. And if you don't understand how to properly address it, make sure that you attack your own weaknesses and your own deficiencies, because if you don't, somebody else will. The last thing I want is to not know what to do in the middle of a sparring match, or even worse, not know what to do in the middle of a fight, because I was too proud to ask those questions when I was back inside training, inside the gym, inside the dojo, inside the dojang, and get the clarity that I needed. So that's my perspective, that leg kicks can definitely be used in an effective fashion to slow faster opponents down, to be able to be used as a distraction to set boxing and other things up. But also my perspective that as individual martial artists, we have to know the things that we're good at and the things that we're not. And we have to not be too proud and have an ego to where we are able to attack our own weaknesses and deficiencies and ask for help when we need it.
Nice, man. Man, I'll be feeling bad for some of those fighters sometimes when I see somebody just tearing those legs up. I'm like, bring that knee up high so you can use the shin to block that kick. Like, don't you feel it? Like, come on now, because you are not going to be walking the next day.
But the leg kick is an afterthought, because after the leg was kicked, that's when you remember what to do. Oh, dang, I forgot to do my leg up. Okay, throw it again. The guy doesn't throw it. He throws some hand techniques, then he comes and he kicks you again. Dang, I forgot again. Okay, no, next time I'm going to be ready. Now you're 4 kicks in. The leg is ate up. It's chewed up. It's swollen now, because in between rounds, you just sat down. So now the swelling is settling in. And now when you stand back up off the stool, you can't put that leg in front anymore, and you can't move the same way. You haven't practiced your movement on the left side now, as far as advancing in and out with punches, using this for lateral movements and angles and for defense. So now you are a disabled fighter in the middle of a match. You're compromised, right? So now you're surviving because of the fact that you didn't do what you're supposed to. It's very tricky, because once the person's landed the kick on the leg, you can't remember what to do later. You can't check it now. You've already taken the impact. So that's why we got to make sure we have a good understanding and that our body handles itself as kind of on that autopilot mode when we're fighting, because we can't try to remember to check those kicks. And you can't feel bad for them because they got the training. They know. They just got to make sure that they put it together.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this week, man. Good show.
Good show, man.
All right, everyone. Stay safe. Stay strong. We'll holler at you next week. And I'm going to end our stream.